Hello guys, this is Daredevil, and today we have a lot to talk about. The new patch just hit in, huge changes for Invoker. Um, I would like to take our time to discuss what they are, what they mean, how a hero changes. So we will go through the changes first, just a quick view, avoid any details, just to be on the same page. Invoker now is a universal hero. From the start, we have huge changes from the first line. Base health regen increased from 0 to 25 to 1.5, which is attributed to Quash not longer granting health regen. Base damage decreased, tweaked, I would say, to fit a universal hero caliber. Agility reduced by 0.1, not really important, but in combination with a lack of attack speed from Wex, will require you to build some attack speed if you want to play right click Invoker. Base intelligence increased from 15 to 19, intelligence gained decreased from 4.6 to 4. These changes, the first one, I think I might have some influence in it because I've made some posts explaining that Invoker has the lowest base int from any other int hero and one of the lowest int base int in the game, and this essentially means that your mana pool is very low. If you buy no items and try to throw a Sunstrike, you will see most of your mana being depleted. That is why I made some, strats regarding using a Mango to replace your Sunstrike mana and dropping your Null Talismans and all that. However, this change essentially gives you a bit more extra leniency and possibly makes it not necessary to build a Null Talisman, because the item in my opinion was necessary in Invoker. And the int gain was decreased a bit to compensate. It overcompensates. It's also less int you get from Exort. So when you come level 30, Invoker will have a bit less int, that means less magic resistance, but he still has a lot of resistance overall, I'd say. So the level 1 damage was decreased by 6 to 4, I'm not sure. Okay. Essentially you can get the same damage from level 1. If you build the proper items, we will see that. And damage gain per level increased from 4.6 to 5.74. That does not include an orb. If you level up an orb, that goes plus 0.7 to 6.44. This is just from stats, in other words. So, Quas now grants you spell lifesteal. In my opinion, this is the worst of the three, by far. It's very, very niche. I think they had to give something to Quas and they could not figure out what to give, so they decided for spell lifesteal. It's not completely bad, but compared to others it's not good. And we will see why that the numbers are not really strong, and we will see later on. We will demonstrate. Now, Vex gives you cooldown reduction on both your abilities and items. In my opinion, in most cases, this is the strongest of the three. Exort wins in some scenarios later on, or some early scenarios where you just want damage, but overall I'd say Vex is better than Exort. Now, in my opinion, you do not just want to compare cooldown reduction with spell amplification and spell lifesteal. You also want to take into consideration the spells that are upgraded with each level on each. So when you are in the early game and think, you do not want to think in the level of, well, do I want some extra cooldown or some extra spell amplification? Because each point you select is making some spells stronger, and it's delaying some other spells from coming into the game. So it's a complex formula, in my opinion, to decide the proper build-up on Invoker. We will have to see in time. And of course this differs if you want to go right click, if you want to go spell casting, if you want to go hybrid, if you want to go something else like a support or an Ur build, which will probably be good because Ur now, Vessel gives you more stats. It gives you 12 stats other than 2. It's very interesting. It will take people some time to figure out the best pickup in each case. But overall, I'd say Wex is the best of the 3. Cold Snap now heals Invoker for 16 to 128 every time it procs. Now, the freeze cooldown was decreased by 0.03 seconds, which is basically a revert of a nerf that happened about 2 years ago, if I recall correctly. They had increased it by this amount, and now they take it back. In my opinion, in their minds, what they thought was, okay, now Quas does not give regen, right? And Quas is supposed to be the sustain spell, the sustain orb element. So what do we do to kind of compensate, because Quas now sucks, right? And beforehand, if you put down Quas, Vex, and Exalt, Quas was the weakest of all after level 4, right? You could get away with Quas level 4, and you didn't have any real reason to increase the levels of a spell. Now, I think this comes into consideration when they decide to buff Cold Snap. They think, alright, perhaps we can make Cold Snap heal, which was also a suggestion by a user on Reddit. I didn't like it at the time, but because I thought Invoker wanted buffs but wanted other buffs. But the way it came, I have to say I'm pretty happy with this, because it's a lot. Like before, the Cold Snap was about 10 to 11 procs. Keep in mind that the first proc happens when you cast the spell. So you might be getting around 1000 HP with max Quas, which is pretty high. And it's interesting. Obviously you want a lot of people to hit the target in order for the Cold Snap to proc as often as it can. So in early stage, in the laning stage, you won't be able to have the maximum heal from Cold Snap because your hero takes a longer time to attack. Also, you won't get it from spells because Meteor does damage every 0.5 seconds and Cold Snap triggers faster than that. So you won't get always the maximum amount of heal. So the number might seem very high, but keep in mind you won't get the maximum amount of procs every single time you cast Cold Snap. So probably that's why it is such a high number, because 128 is pretty high. Another thing that so to sum it up, I think this was on their minds when they decided to buff Cold Snap. The other thing that, if you remember, and I had created a lengthy post on Reddit which actually convinced the developers and they reverted the nerf. What they had done on Cold Snap was to decrease the freeze duration to 0.3 seconds, which was part of the overall stun reduction of the 7.33 patch. And I said that this can't happen in Cold Snap because it destroys the utility of the spell, which is to stun lock opponents from blinking away. Right, every hero now could blink away from Cold Snap. It was not good. So what happened was that they brought back the 0.4 freeze duration and they decreased the Cold Snap duration. So I think the freeze cooldown was also decreased because they thought, alright, we don't want a high Cold Snap duration, but we want some more procs to happen. So the heal seems more important, right? So that also must have been a reason. The thing is, what this also changes is that it's basically giving you one extra level on the cooldown, which means that if you want to stun lock an anti-mage, who has a 0.34 blink cast time, it's a bit easier to do now, or it takes one less point of quash to be able to do this. Still, it's not guaranteed because you need to have the proper attack speed. You need to be able to apply damage constantly. It also allows you at the last level with Aghanim Scepter. If you do the math, the subtraction 0.59 minus 0.4, it's 0.19. This means that you can also stop spells with a cast point of 0.2, but this is extremely unlikely to happen. Why? Because you need to be able to apply damage with an error of 0.01 seconds, which is extremely low and it's not realistic. It's not going to happen. Perhaps you have an alchemist with full attack speed and your team hitting one target, then okay, they won't be able to use the 0.2 cast time spell, but that's a 1 in 1,000 cases scenario. Won't change a lot, bottom line. But it's good to have. The mana cost was also reduced. As I said, you don't need Null Talisman. Also, some other spells had their mana reduced, which is important because, as I said many times, Invoker's main problem is his mana, handling his mana problems. And it's very difficult, was very difficult because base int was low, now it's a bit higher, so you have a bit of a higher mana pool and base mana regeneration from the base int. And you still though are getting less mana from Exhort and overall. So they thought, okay, there might be a problem with Exhort Invoker because he won't have enough mana. Because if you see the Ghost Walk, which was a change I really liked, and now basically you're a fountain on legs. You get a lot of health regen and a lot of mana regen. Actually, the mana regen is more impressive than a health regen, because if we check an item like Hex, which has the highest mana regen of all items, I believe, just gives 8.5. That means level 2 Vex gives you more mana regen than a Hex, which is insane. This completely fixes all issues Invoker has mid-game and later on. I'm not saying early game because you have to go a Vex oriented build in order to get max mana regen earlier on. But as the game progresses, there were many occasions where Invoker was having problem with his mana, even in the mid to late game. And basically this fixes that. Also, the Vex cooldown reduction also reduces the cooldown of Ghost Walk, so you will have it more. The thing is that the spell costs 175 mana, so you cannot really spam it unless you remain in the Ghost Walk for at least 10 to 15 seconds. Otherwise, it's not gonna benefit you mana wise in the early levels. Tornado was rescaled. I mean, it's fine, not really much of a difference. I had learned to cast my spells in the lowest duration, so this probably will make things a bit better. Alacrity mana cost reduced. This is much more important than others because you will be spamming Alacrity, and with cooldown reduction from Vex you will spam Alacrity more often, so this is important, do not underestimate it. And Sunstrike damage at level 1 is a lot better. I mean, you can just hit twice the enemy mage and then cast Sunstrike and he will get killed, while the enemy won't be able to try to deny him. Of course, he can try and share the damage, however, it's not going to happen because it's 100 pure damage on himself, and you still may be able to get the mage by attacking the mage again. So, I think it's a very good change in the lane, and probably necessary one. You can also get, early kills, but out of the three, I don't really see Exhort being very useful as a level 1 pickup without this change, because you don't get extra damage. Every orb gives you the same amount of damage now, and possibly Cold Snap could be a better spell to have, right? It's 16 per proc. So, listen, if you proc 2 times or 3 times, you pretty much get your regen from your Wex Orbs, right? If you think it like that, I think Wex takes a bit of a priority now. Deafening Blast also had its mana nerfed by 20, reduced by 50. Okay, it's a big of a deal early game because the spell was almost impossible to cast with the mana issues Invoker had, and it was a pretty weak spell early on, so that's a welcoming change, to be honest. So to get into the game, I've created here a demo mode. So when you start, you see you have 42 damage. Everything you pick will give you plus 0.7. For whatever reason, let's pick Wex. You might possibly want to start with 3 circlets and 3 branches. Obviously this is about 625 gold, so you probably will have to wait a gold rune to get this, or just drop a branch and bring it later on. So you can start the lane with 60 damage. And every time you level up you get 6.44, since you will be leveling orbs early in the game. That means that the scale up will be good. You will be able to farm in the lane. You won't be that worried. The combos that you will be using in the lane, right? So let's create a creep wave and possibly create a hero who's a bit tanky. Let's create Nova as an enemy. Create all vision. Sorry. Okay. Alright, have the Fogler, give him a bracer just for the sake of it, why not? Okay, so I want to take some damage to make a point, right, so... Okay, so if we attack the Ogre... If we manage to hit 3 times, right, we get 16 by 3, this is for... if I can... 48 damage, 48 health. If we had Wex level 1, that is about, let's say, how much is it? How much was it actually? I'm not sure. I think it was 1 at level 1, so you had 3 HP regen, which means to get 48 you have to do, oh, basically that's it goes like that, yeah. Okay, you needed about 16 seconds to get the heal you will get from hitting an opponent 3 times, from proccing Cold Snap 3 times. So I'd say you get your regen and you get it condensed. You just need to spend some damage for it. That's the thing. So Wex, I can see Wex getting some priority, right? The heal doubles at level 2. And it also increases in duration, which means you probably can get another proc. So let me check this out. Right. So okay, again. Okay, so good. So let's check that. 3, 4. Right, you can get 4, which means not only you get double the heal, but you also get another proc. So you had 3 procs, now you get 4 procs. That is 1/3, so 33% plus 50% extra heal on each proc. You get a lot more usage from level 2 Cold Snap rather than level 1. So you probably always want to have at least level 2 Wex in lane. And then you can play around this too. That's the first thought, right? Nothing is set in stone, we're just figuring things out. And basically you can go something like this, and then you can build a bracer, which is your number 1 pickup because it gives you a lot of damage plus HP. Wraithband is good also because now you won't be getting a lot of attack speed, so you need some ways to get an attack speed. And Null Talisman is still an option, right? You can still pick a Null Talisman. And how can I explain this? By increasing your max mana pool, you're giving yourself more of a buffer. And when you cast spells and you're at, it's better to be at 60% mana than to be at 20% mana. So in that regard, Null Talisman is useful. Then you can go into Ghost Walk and Regen. You can also build an urn, in which case I'd say go 1 circlet, then get 2 crowns. It would be a better combination to get urn if you want to rush it, to get Spirit Vessel, I'm sorry. There are, generally speaking, a lot of ways to play the hero in the lane, all interesting. I will have to make a follow-up video discussing each one in detail, but I would like to leave the early game here and start discussing about each spell in particular. Now, we will take each spell. Now, let me remove this guy. Let's give me everything. Alright, now, let's take each spell by its order and discuss whether we want to use Quash, Vex, or Exhort in order to cast it. For Cold Snap, I don't think Quash is a very good pickup. It's 24% lifesteal if you have 3 Wex Orbs, which means you will get 24% of 64. Okay, you can do the math, but let's say it's close to the 1/3, like about 20, right? 18 to 20 extra heal per proc, and you already get 128. I wouldn't say it's that big of a deal, but probably you want to use Wex with Cold Snap because this will reduce the cooldown, right? This will reduce the cooldown, and you probably then want to think about Exhort if you want to increase the damage, because Cold Snap actually does a lot of damage, 64, and if you get 10 procs, it's 640 damage. It deals more damage than a full tornado. It deals more damage than a full EMP. So if you want to increase your damage, let's say let's create an ogre, get him full level because I don't want him to die. And let's say I also happen to have, Ice Wall, which means this does more damage as well. So I think this is a Radiance on steroids. Like, look at the damage. This guy is ticking like crazy, right? He won't be able to leave what it is. And I haven't even gotten this talent. I don't want to get it because this is something you will get very, very late into the game. So let's not add it yet. So probably you want to go with Vex if you want to decrease the cooldown and increase the heal you get, basically, because you can cast it twice in the team fight, or probably 3 times. So you get more heal than you would get from Quash, and then you want to get it with Exhort as a secondary option if you really need the damage. Now, Ghost Walk, you always want to cast it with Wex. There is no other option. Quash doesn't give anything, Exhort doesn't give anything, so cast Ghost Walk with Wex. Now, there might be a case where you want to have a spell ready. Something that I always do is have my spells like this. Holy shit, right. I have invoked Cold Snap and Ghost Walk, and my spells are like that. Why? Because if I press R now, I will get Tornado. So I can get in Ghost Walk, find an enemy, R Tornado, 1 Vex, and now I get EMP, and I can do this, right? Easy as that, and I can leave. And basically I press 2 orbs and get all my spells ready, and I can start a combo. And I can scale that combo to 6, 7, 8 spells, if need be. Depends on the circumstance. So other than that, I would say always use Ghost Walk with Vex. Ice Wall, same thing as Cold Snap. With Vex might be useful when... Alright, I've said last patch, I don't know if you've seen my videos, but this talent could be useful to clear Ancients early on. If you remember my build where I would rush Blink, then get Octarine, then get Travels, and then get Midas at minute 18, actually this was a good case because I would get Ice Wall DPS, and I wouldn't mind picking at level 10 a talent because with Octarine I will drop my cooldown. Now I will also have Vex, but this depends of course on the build up. You can actually have 100% up, close to 100% uptime to be able to clear camps. It might be worth a shot, right? It was good already, it can become a bit better, but can also be redundant, I don't know yet. But generally speaking, again, if you want more damage, exhort. If you want less damage, but lower cooldown, as well. Now, if you have a big stack and you want to tank it, then possibly go Quos. But 4 level of Quos are gonna be enough to give you enough HP? I'm not certain.
Orbs light my
So
path.
as well that as well, EMP. Now, alright, let's check this out, right? If I use EMP with 3 Exalt Orbs, he will lose about 500 HP. If I use it with 3 Wex Orbs, he loses about 100 less. So, in my opinion, the cooldown takes priority here, right? 100 damage won't be enough, so I'd rather have the cooldown personally. Quos, never. I don't see using Quos EMP, never. So, Tornado is a very interesting thing, right? Because if I go ahead and create hero, sorry, I cannot see, melee enemy, right? He has 550 HP. Now, max Tornado is 450, which means that if we go Exhort, if we go, I'm trying to go like this, no. In any case, if we go max Exhort, okay, yes, I figured that, because we need to do some math, right? So I should better go with with the borders window so I can open this up easier. So 450, and let's say I want to get max spell amplification, which is 7 times 3, 1.21. We almost get to the point of one-shotting it. Now, if for some reason, whatever reason, we have some spell amplification, whatever, like a Timeless Relic or a Kaya or a Yasa and Kaya, which are good items now because you're a universal hero. So if we go like this, we can instant kill it, right? And this is important at clearing waves. Now, if you want to harass waves, going with a cooldown is better. If you want to kill waves, you need to check, right? Is one Exhort Orb enough to kill the wave and get some extra cooldown off? Do I need 2 Exhort Orbs? That's something you have to decide per game on a situation by situation basis, because as the game progresses, the creeps become stronger. Alright, also this goes in combination. Let's say you have a Siva's Guard and Tornado. What type of Tornado do I need in order to be able to one-shot them with Sivas and Tornado? I think in this case you will always be able to one-shot them unless they are mega creeps or even stronger creeps, I think. So I think mostly you will use it with 3 Wex Orbs in order to push waves. Now if you want to do that damage, that changes because you go with 3 Exhort Orbs. Possibly you might be able to use Quos like 1 in 100 chance cases. If there are a lot of creeps and you just want to heal up a bit, let's say...
Come on!
Let's say this guy is a...
No, me!
And supposedly he doesn't have a stun, a bus, right? So if 3 people are above you, you can use the TP out, and when they fall down you heal up a bit and you will be able to survive 1 more hit. That's another use I can think of, but you know, that's very niche, 1 in 100 at best, so not really much to talk about. And then we have Alacrity. Now Alacrity is similar with Quos, always 3 Wex Orbs because Quos gives nothing, Exhort gives nothing. So Wex reduces cooldown, so you want to go with Wex. Deafening Blast, good. In cases you have this talent, which I would advise you to never get because this is too powerful at this point in my opinion. It's the much more interesting talent. If you have a Radial Deafening Blast and you are low and there are a lot of heroes and creeps around you, then this makes sense with Quos at max level. Other than that, I'd rather go with Wex because the cooldown is much more important. It's a high cooldown spell. And secondary with Exhort, although it doesn't deal a lot of damage in order to be enhanced. But if you really want to enhance damage, like how many times have I suggested a spell like this, right? Where you try to cast every spell before they fall. If you want at the moment they fall to get the maximum damage, then this makes sense to use with Exhort. But again, it's hard to cast big combos and play with the orbs as you want. That is very hard to do so. And this is the reason why I think the orbs are not as powerful people think. But I will keep this for later. Let's finish with the spells. Sunstrike, again, do I want to scout? Wex. Do I know that the damage is going to be enough? Wex. Do I need more damage? Exhort. Do I need more damage, but even if I get more damage, the damage will not be enough? Wex. So mostly, again, that's why I'm saying this, the Wex is the strongest component. If you want to make the big combos with a Cataclysm, of course you will go with Exhort and Cataclysm. But if you have an Acronym Scepter and you go with 3 Wex Orbs, you can actually decrease the cooldown on Cataclysm. And if you have a lot of cooldown, this will drop it to around... okay, let's check it out. Octarine Core, neutral items, let's get an Prism. And I'm not getting this yet. But with Octarine Core and Spell Prism, or Quickening Charm because it's 2%, makes no difference, you will get it at around 50 seconds cooldown. So you can use Sunstrike, Cataclysm, to essentially learn the position of the enemy team on the map. Right, see if they have smoked, see if they are moving somewhere, if they are rushing, if they are doing something. You can do that, and then probably you will have Cataclysm ready in the team fight. So Sunstrike is giving you a dilemma. Do I want to use Exhort for more damage, or do I want to use Wex for more utility? And this is the reason why I really like this change on the orbs. First time I saw it, I didn't really like it because I thought this will cripple combos. But now I see it in a different light. Like, essentially the game tells you, do you want to use spells one by one? Then okay, you can choose whether you will have a spell on a lower cooldown in a weaker form, or you will get the most powerful version of the spell. But you won't be able to make a 7 spell combo and be able to get what you want all the time, right? Because if I try to cast let's say a high amount of spell combo on orbs, right, I cannot do all this and at the same time play with my orbs, right? This will not happen. This is very hard. This is not just hard, this is impossible. You can do that all the time. However, you might be able to create some smaller combos with proper orb casting, and this is very interesting because it explodes the amount of possibilities on Invoker, which I personally really like. Like, you guys know the combo I've been using for those following the channel. I think what I call the Exodia combo, because essentially you will kill them all. And let's level them up, see around this much.
Of course.
And
True arcanery.
the combo is pretty much... Okay, now, why I'm saying this combo is healthy. Check this out. I'm starting with this. If I click Tornado, Invoke, I can place an EMP for some extra damage and to pull them closer, but this is a bit tricky.
Yes.
Because you may pull them out away from the Sunstrike, so you might not want to use it. But then when I press once Exhort, this is very important. I've said this time after time again. You have to be very, efficient with casting orbs. I just need to press one button to get the Sunstrike. And now I have 3 Exhort Orbs, which means max damage, and I can do Meteor, 2 Sunstrikes, Meteor, obviously I will have the talent, and possibly you want to get a talent, because if you place them between the two meteors, you double the damage they take. So you create this huge combo, and you can enhance it even further with the 3 orbs. But if you want to make an 8 spell combo, you cannot do it, right? Even now, at this case, the best combo you could pull off here would be to use Tornado mode, cast EMP, cast Meteor, throw 1 Meteor and 1 Cataclysm, go into Vex, press refresh to get a shorter cooldown on Invoker, go Exhort again and press it again to get max damage from Sunstrike. But why doesn't this work? Because people react. So if someone has a Force Staff, you can tell me yourself if you think he can turn around and Force Staff when this happens. See, he cannot turn around. But if I go like this, he can get away. See, I have to make a choice. Do I want to get most of my orbs, or do I want to get a perfect combo? In this case, getting a perfect combo is important. So Refresher losing a lot of cooldown is not as powerful in this combo. Why? Because it cannot happen. That is why I think people are overestimating the potential of this. First of all, cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction. Fuck, I lost my words. Apologize. Cooldown reduction diminishes. Multiplies diminishingly. Sorry, fuck, I could not find the word for some reason. In which case you get 21%, but then you get 25%, but it's not 41. You lose some of it, right? You get diminishing returns. So the more cooldown you get, yes, you get better cooldowns, but not that much, right? There is some point where it's not worth it to build more. It is enjoyable, but most likely not worth it.
I proceed.
So the interesting thing is you can get a lot of things from everywhere, right? You can get an Octarine Core, you can get a neutral item, you can get Vex, you can even get a talent on 20. And now the thing is, alright, let's finish with the spells, right? Actually, we finished. Alright, the Forge Spirits remain and the Chaos Meteor. Forge Spirits, always cast them on Vex, right? Force gives them nothing, Exhort gives them nothing, so cast them on Vex. Lower cooldown. If you have travel boots, right, you may even get a low cooldown TP scroll, so you can TP top, spawn Forge Spirits, let them push. Oh, someone TP top, very well, I will TP bottom, spawn Forge Spirits again, and push the bottom lane while I farm the jungle. This is what you want to do probably. And last but not least, Meteor. Now, Meteor is very interesting, right? I'd say, okay, probably this won't happen, right? I know it might sound good, but you won't be ganked by the enemies early game and be able to throw Meteors to heal to full HP. Right. Probably won't happen. It can happen like it's 1 in a 50 chance, it's not 1 in 200 or 100. But not so much. So, let's be realistic. In most cases, do you want to push waves? 1 meteor, normal meteor is enough to kill the creeps, so you always go with Vex. Do you want to deal max damage? Then you go Exhort. Do you want to force an item from an enemy? You go Vex. What do I mean? You seen one game that I had made a commentary upon, there was a PA here, Phantom Assassin, and she had BKB. So I went from Ghost Walk from this position, walked all the way top, found her, and what I did was something like this. The Ghost Walk combo that I just described. And I will do this. And what PA now, because listen, I went back, he could not blink, there were no creeps, he had to press Black King Bar to survive. But Black King Bar has 90 seconds cooldown. My spell had less. So next fight in 30 seconds, 40 seconds, right? Vex didn't give cooldown reduction back then, so you had about 30 cooldown reduction because you had the shard. A fight happened half a minute later and I knew that Phantom Assassin did not have BKB. So what do? I go straight to Phantom Assassin. right? And I kill her with another combo because I had procced her BKB previously. And alright, sorry, give me a second because I'm getting a message. So what you can do now, if you really want to force the issue, right, you can use such a combo that I described, but you can use all pet, right? And now you have very low cooldown, and you will have Meteor on a much lower cooldown. They will use their BKB and you can get away. So this is a diversionary attack. Like you don't want to kill them, you want them to force their items. When they use their items, when the enemy carry uses their items, if you're a good invoker player, then he becomes your bitch. In most cases, like I'm not telling you he's an Axe who has a BKB and trades, but if they use their BKB, you should be able to destroy the enemy carry. Let me put it that way. I see myself using this quite a lot. So this is another use where you want to use Meteor with 3 Wex Orbs. Because the other guy doesn't know, right? Doesn't know what orbs you have when you do this. He will try to save himself.
Well away.
Okay, so we finish with Meteor as well. So now, before closing up, I would like to discuss late game. And I honestly believe that Invoker after this patch is the strongest hero in the late game. And it's very interesting because he's not just the strongest in something. Or perhaps he's the strongest nuker. At this point I think he's the strongest nuker. Because if you go like this and get something like this and cast Cataclysm twice, then okay, you have a lot of damage. You do around 2000 pure damage globally, with a stun of course, right? So you probably are the best nuker in the game later on. The thing is that I believe Invoker becomes so strong later on now due to his versatility. And let me elaborate on that. I've shown you some combos right now how you can be useful. Now you can really push the waves, you can defend by yourself, right? This is very, very important. So you can use Tornado push, you can use Ice like this. If the enemy is coming up high ground, you can use Ice and have it on low cooldown. You can basically spam it all the time. You can use Force Spirits. You can use split pushing techniques, right? You can go everywhere. Nothing is stopping you. You can do everything. With the Arcane Blink, you can put your boots in the backpack, because now you have a 3.6 second blink, which is pretty big range. Look at this range. It's pretty high. You don't really need that much movement speed. And by the way, this is by 2 now. It used to be by 3. They shadow nerfed it. I mean, they did not document the change, but they had to change this because probably it was too strong with the orbs. So you have a hero that can put the boots in the backpack. You have a hero that can deal the most damage in the late game. He can do a lot of disabling. Of course, he doesn't have a hard stun, otherwise he would be broken as hell. But you have a hero who is so versatile, like he can give you a global view on what the enemy team is doing, right? Go 3 Wex Orbs, press Cataclysm, 50 seconds, right? You can see where they are, you can go the other way. Refresher Orb at 93 seconds, and look, if I get my talents, Refresher Orb goes at 70 seconds, 69 seconds. Nice. And the Cataclysm goes 38. It is insane, right? You can do so many things, right? You have so much control on what you want to do, and this is why I really like this change. You can kill, you can get even Hex, right? You can get a lot of items. You're a universal hero. You get a lot of damage. Now let's get to the damage department, right? As you can see, I don't have a lot of damage at this point, right? The only damage item I have, without getting any items, right? You used to get more damage with Exhort than this before, right? So people always thought, and I would agree with them, that Universal Invoker would be OP because he will get a shit ton of damage. But that is not really true, because one, they nerfed the amount of stats he gets. Of course they had to. They removed damage from Exhort. Still important. So you really don't get the damage you used to get. So they're telling you, if you want to go right click, you have to commit. Right? You have to get stat items. Then the thing is, the spellcaster doesn't want to get stat items. Arcane Blink is not a stat item. It does give you some stats, but it's not that much. Right? You would get more damage if you were just an intelligence hero. Octarine Core does not give you stats. Aghanim Center does give you stats. That's a very good pickup now on Invoker. I bought it all the time, to be honest, so I will keep buying the item. I think it's necessary to have if you want to play the spellcaster type. Hex gives you a little bit more damage, but you got most of it anyway. So as you can see, there are not many items that you want to build as a universal invoker that give you a lot of stats, right? Lincoln Sphere is an exception. I think Lincoln Sphere is probably with Manta, those two items that for some reason are together. Also the Pike, but this is probably a pickup if you want to go right click. Manta is a very good pickup with Lincoln Sphere and Invoker. First of all, if you get Lincoln Sphere, and you get the cooldown reduction.
Yes.
You get the Lincoln Sphere of, wait for it, 5.4 seconds, which is absolutely bollocks. This is extremely potent, right? If you get the BKB, 90 seconds become 34.5 seconds. Right, you can have BKB all the time. You can also get the Windwalker. This is where the fun starts. If you want to survive with Arcane Blink, right? 2.4 seconds cooldown, blink away. Again. Look, this is pretty insane. Again, you won't always get a Spell Prism. You won't always play at level 25, so these things are ultra late game. But there is some scaling. This is important. But Lincoln Sphere is very interesting, right? Because you will get a low cooldown on Lincoln Sphere. What else would I want to say? Alright, yeah. Manta is also good because now, before you got more damage, but you got it as raw damage. Now your damage from universal stat becomes base damage, which means your illusion deal a lot more damage. Now let me check something. Let's create an anti-mage.
Unto battle.
Give him a heart, give him an assault so he survives a bit. Let him heal up.
Yes.
What you can do is this. You always want to cast with 3 Wex Orbs, do not forget.
One of my favorite.
If you go like this, it will become a lot harder for him to get away. That's a good combo. Now, this combo can be an opener in the late game. Also, 11.5 seconds with a talent, extremely low cooldown. You can essentially keep pushing lanes with Forge Spirits and Illusions. This is a good usage in the late game. But let's say you have a hero like this, and there is a Rubik or Shadow Shaman. If you went in before with Forge Spirits and Blink, you will get hexed. But now with Manta, you also add more people hitting the target. Like you can blink on top of someone. You just have to click a like at it before. And go like this. Right now, if you might even manage to trap them, right? They won't be able to. And if they have a single target spell, like a Noble who has a single target stun, they won't be able to stop the onslaught. Right, and then with a cooldown you can blink away. Or you can have BKB, and this is how you can initiate fights, right? You don't have to start with spells. You just blink on someone. This. What you can do? Right? That's a good usage, and it's also a dispel. Like you have Lincolns, you have BKB, and you also have a dispel. That's pretty strong. You also don't need to have boots. So Manta I think is a good item. Some combos, some builds will happen with Manta, at least from me. Lincolns I also like. BKB I never bought, but I might buy it if I want to make super aggressive plays. This is the only reason I make BKB. okay, there's a 10% where they have Skywrath, Shadow Shaman, Rubik, and I just need the BKB, otherwise I will die. So these are the two cases that I buy BKB personally. So these three items are good. Like Hurricane Pike, also good, gives you damage. This is basically the go-to item if you want to build damage at this point. Glipnir is not good anymore because it doesn't give you a lot of stats and you need stats, so nope. But if you don't want to get stats, you can go for the item, I guess. The item in general was nerfed because it was very strong. Also Refresher, like another reason Invoker is extremely powerful later on in the game.
Concentration.
We haven't talked about this. I kept this for last, like Midas. Midas now is a mid to late game item for Invoker. You never want to sell your Midas. I believe so. Why? Because it comes with two charges, right? You might have 10 base cooldown increase, but many times you could die. So yeah, okay, now you actually don't lose most of the times as much efficiency as you would. So this is a good change. In my opinion, this is a buff.
I'm well aware of it.
But Midas also works with cooldown reduction. Like if I go spawn neutrals,
I'll keep it in mind.
see? 36 seconds.
Over yon.
And also notice, I'm not sure what goes what, but if I go with Exhort, the charge restores a bit slower. I'm not sure.
This bores me.
Oh no, I think it depends on your cast, because listen, if I go with Exhort, 10 seconds remaining takes a lot more time, whereas if I go with Vex, because the bar feels faster, it goes a bit back, that's why it changes. But you want it to cast with Vex, obviously. Okay, so, alright, the thing is, did you see what dropped? Neutral items. Now imagine you're into a 60-minute game,
Away
right?
hence.
And you can do actually like this. This might seem insane, but you can do this, and it's actually a good play.
Enlightenment stands ready.
Midas, throw a Cataclysm, Refresher, because it's 69 seconds, and suddenly you become an ogre, and you get all the neutral items for your team. The tier 3 and the tier 4 neutral items. I won't say tier 5 because you know it's a bit less, it's a bit rare, but you can do this
Avowedly.
with tier 4 as well, right? If you don't have the level 25 talent, it's gonna be 90 seconds. But the Midas cooldown drops so much
Mindfully.
that I think it's worth it to keep it, because one, it gives you instantly neutral items, which are important to get, and secondly, every time you click Refresher, and you can have Refresher at 69 seconds, this allows you to make a build where you go something like this, and now you are set up,
Ancient scepter.
right? And you're not even losing a Sunstrike. Why? Because you can use it to basically scout, press Refresher, get your Midas back up, and then you have Cataclysm again, and in 1 minute you have the Refresher ready again. So this essentially means you will have buyback more in the late game, because Midas is reliable gold. You will have neutral items for you and your team. You will have it on a very low cooldown. If you add everything up, the cooldown will be extremely small. And you know, I think it's an item that you need to keep on your inventory no matter what, even in the backpack. Also, by the way, if you die, you want to... No, I'm not shedding.
And so.
If you die, let's say I suicide, right? You see the Wex Orbs remain, so probably...
All knowledge is parallel.
Not sure.
Of course.
Perhaps you want to die with Wex Orbs if there is a charge-based item, because it will increase the time the charges
So it is
regenerate. You know, I'm not certain that if I have one charge, right, and I die, nope, I think it is dependent on when you cast it. That is when the cooldown is set. Right, okay, let's try to cast.
With speed.
Let's try to cast with Exhort. Let's see what happens.
I proceed.
No, it goes backwards. I don't know what kind of overflow this is, but it seems pretty weird, to be honest. Let's check if this gives us actually a charge. If this gives us a charge, it's weird. It shouldn't give us a charge though. Okay, it doesn't. See, it goes away. Basically tells you... okay. Basically tells... how can I say this? The way they've made it, the charge restore appear is it checks your cooldown reduction and it calculates linearly probably, or not probably, certainly, the time it will take to reach the top. So if I reduce my cooldown reduction, this gets closer because 30 seconds to the top, the 30 seconds perhaps that I need remain the same, but the appearance changes based on the cooldown. So this is just eye candy, you don't need to worry about this. Just make sure you cast Midas with Wex, always. Overall, I think I've mentioned pretty much everything. I will make a follow-up video certainly where I will explain some things in more detail. I hope you guys liked this video. If you have any questions, please leave them below. Thanks for watching and bye for now.